All right, we're live. Close
Hey
big
everybody.
ticket sales. Yo, what's up? What's up? What's up? Yeah, with my partner here, business partner Anthony. And so today, what I want to actually go over is a conversation I had today with one of our prospects that was actually potentially going to work with us. And so one of the things that we usually hear is uh, clients potentially wanting to hire setters, but one of the main objections they have usually in their head is like, what I could just do this myself, right? So that's kind of what I want to talk about, and it's totally fine for you to bring setters yourself, but I think before you even do that, you need to be aware of the time commitment that it takes and some check boxes that you should be aware of before you actually even hire a setter, because there's a time commitment there, energy commitment, a lot of steps and processes. So Anthony actually again worked with a previous agency. He was head of hiring setters, managing setters. So, what are some common things, Anthony, that people aren't aware of when it comes to that whole process?
Yeah, and based on experience and based on just talking to people that have tried to do it themselves, a lot of people are under the impression that hiring a setter is just somebody you put a job post out for. They agree to do a certain task for a certain pay, and they think that's it. And all of a sudden, boom! I have my setter problem fixed. And at the end of the day, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Because getting them through the door, yes, that's one thing, making sure that they're skilled enough, they're competent to actually book appointments. Not only that, but then they're able to do that on a consistent basis for you to book a certain number of appointments that your company needs on a weekly basis. That's a whole different ball game. Now, probably 9 out of 10 businesses that I've spoken to, uh, when they've tried to do it themselves, what they find is their appointment setter doesn't produce, they don't show up for
Mm-hmm.
work. Bottom line is they just don't get what the setter initially signed up for, and the
Dude,
quality
that's
is
actually
just
really
bad.
common as well. Just them not even showing up to work.
Yeah, no, that's one of the headaches. That can be solved in the hiring process, in the vetting process. But yes, if somebody thinks that they can do it themselves, you do have to have a history of managing some form of sales team, whether it be sales reps, whether it be appointment setters. You want to make sure you do have those processes in place and you do have a standard operating procedure that you do follow. Otherwise, the callers, they'll just kind of do what they want, and you won't get the number of booked calls that you're hoping for.
Yeah, because if you're running, most of the time we're working with online consultants. If you're running a coaching business or on a consulting business, you're already wearing so many hats in your business. You're hiring, you're doing operations, you're running the business, you're doing fulfillment. I personally have a background in sales and know how much time it really takes to hire, train, and manage sales reps. Like, I mean, when I was working as a sales manager for selling vacuum cleaners door to door, I was managing a team of 10 to 20 at a time. And so the hiring process with interviews would take hours out of your week. You'd have to vet them, put them through a trial, train them, manage them. It takes a whole bunch of time, and probably impossible for me to do if I was actually running the business as well. So, I mean, let's give an example here. One of our clients, the reason why he actually partnered up with us, let's call him Joe. Um, he has an online coaching business for speakers. Why did he end up working with us?
So Joe had his own team of setters, but the his he actually had a unique problem. He had way too many inbound leads for his setters to
Yeah.
handle, and he wanted to try us out to see what we could do for him in terms of booking him pre-qualified sales calls. And in that initial trial, we smashed it out of the park for him. We were able to help him close I believe it was a 15K deal within his first week on trial, and that more than paid for our services for the entire
Yep.
month. And then at that point, it was just a no-brainer for him to continue.
Yeah, and that's a common situation with people that we work with. This isn't even meant to be like a pitch for our services at all. It's just a common situation that we see normally where business owners they already have a few setters in place, but when it comes to just hitting the KPIs, that's where they fall short. When it comes to hiring a sales team, outbound sales team, that's where they fall short as well. So Joe here, he again already had a few setters, but then he just didn't have the time and bandwidth. Those are his words. He just didn't have the bandwidth to actually train these setters, listen to the sales calls, and everything there too. So I mean, another situation that we see is, set businesses that just have never hired setters before. So what's your insight there, Anthony? Like businesses that just haven't hired setters before.
Businesses that haven't hired a setter before, there it's just kind of making them realize that they can be doing so much more with their time. Say, for example, one client that we recently onboarded, he's a yoga trainer. He trains yoga practitioners on how to make a full-time
Mm-hmm.
living teaching yoga. And he has a very successful business, don't get me wrong. He's still making a lot working on his own, but he wasn't understanding how much more he could be making. He was explaining to me on our call that he would spend 3-4 hours a day minimum just on the call, talking to prospects, convincing them to hop on a call with them. And that's great and all, because at the end of the day it is working. But then I really made him understand how much more revenue his business could be generating if he spent those 3 hours on actual sales calls rather than convincing people to hop on a sales call there. And so with that being said, he just realized that his time was a lot better spent taking the sales call, and he is the owner of the business, so he is
Yep.
great at closing himself. It's just now we're able to offload the appointment setting part. So now all he has to do is look at his calendar, see who's booked for what time, and then just convert them on that call. That frees up a lot of his time, and not only that, we're able to focus on what we do best, and we're actually able to book appointments at a more effective rate than him. He was normally scheduling phone calls. We put a system in place where not only are we scheduling phone calls, but Google Meets so we can do an online presentation for them.
Yep. No, for sure. And that just comes down to prioritizing and delegating for running a business and scaling your business. If you're the business owner and you're spending time appointment setting, that just doesn't give you, you're probably not spending your your 20% of the time, the most important time, just doing the things that are just moving your business forward, right? And so that kind of reminds me of another client that we worked with, Tony. His situation was a little bit different. He actually never had hired setters before, maybe a few like a VA or two, but then he actually relied most of his sales appointments from inbound leads, where he'd run a workshop. You get 5 appointments per week, let's say give or take like 3 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
But when he that actually just I would say gave him a ceiling though, because he wouldn't be able to get more inbound appointments after that. So when we actually came in there, worked as leads, all the ones that just didn't convert to sales calls, we were able to, I think, quadruple that and also get him a good amount of sales as well.
Yeah.
But what other insights do you remember from that campaign?
One thing I remember was his webinar was doing good, and the people that were booking after that webinar to meet with him, they did have a high show rate and a high conversion rate. One thing he was missing out on was there's a lot of people that did attend his webinar, but for some reason, didn't end up booking a call there. And once we came in there and we implemented that process where we were reaching out to every single person that signed up for a webinar, whether they booked a call with them afterwards or whether or not they just watched the webinar and left it at that, we were able to go back in there to really make sure we were booking whoever was interested but didn't sign up. And through that, he generated a lot more sales using that one method there.
Yep. Because if you're only relying on inbound leads, you're definitely leaving a lot of opportunity there. You're going to get the 1% of the people who are so interested that they're going to book themselves. But what are you going to do with the rest of the 99%? Again, I've done a lot of outbound sales, cold calls, and that's where you get a lot, the big bulk of your sales, just taking the initiative and reaching out to them, because those are the people who have given you their name, phone, and email, which in a way expresses their interest, but they just don't take that step to booking that call with you, to speaking with somebody, because many reasons they could, get distracted, or it's mainly distraction, or they just aren't the type to book themselves on a call because they feel like it's going to be a sales call. But if you have a team to actually reach out to those people, build rapport, build trust, it's an easy booked appointment there.
Yeah, absolutely. And bottom line is going in there and talking to those leads. The fact that they've put their name, number, and email to watch your webinar, you know at the very least they're interested. And the mindset going in there is you want to know if they're interested or not. It's either a yes or a no. The worst thing is not the no. The worst thing is just not knowing what this person could have been. And the best thing to do is to contact that person, whether it be a text, whether it be a phone call, whether it be an email, just to see where they're at and just to see if right now is a good time for them to discuss solving this issue. And if it is, boom, you have a sales call there where potentially you can have a new client. If now is not the right time, that's perfectly fine. You can leave a note to contact them in the future. No right now doesn't mean no forever. It could just mean they're not in the right situation. And if you guys invest into nurturing your leads, then you'll be surprised at who comes back later on down the road.
Yep. Let's talk next about the role of a sales manager and what kind of roles there, and how much it actually costs on LinkedIn or on the job boards to actually hire a sales manager. Because I feel like if you do this yourself, you're committing a lot of time there. But if you were to hire somebody else to do this for you, like what's the investment for that? A typical investment. You've worked with sales managers before in the past, but what are also the benefits of having a sales manager?
So a sales manager is very important for you because especially if you're a business owner and taking care. Normally, business owners are taking care of the back end, which is
Mm-hmm.
service, and you really want to make sure that somebody's looking over your sales team, whether it be you're watching over your sales, your closers, or watching over your appointment setters. You need to make sure that somebody's managing them, keeping motivation high, and pretty much guiding them to the point where they're consistently hitting their KPIs, setting the number of appointments that they need to be hitting. That is a very time consuming task. There's a lot of things that go in there, whether it be listening to call recordings, looking at the number of dials each setter is dialing per day or how many outreaches they're doing per day, seeing what's going on in the conversations there. That takes a fine comb and that takes a lot of attention to detail. Could be 2 hours out of your day you spend managing your team. Not only that, sales calls, going over KPIs, going over goals, giving them consistent motivation, making sure that they're working. So these are things that a sales manager is very important for. Now, if you're to look online and you were to look up, say for example, you just go on Indeed, Glassdoor,
I just
Monster,
looked up here. It's the average salary in Canada. It's 87,000 per year, and that's kind of on the lower end.
$87,000 per year. So you break that down, that's more than that's seven. That's close to 7 grand. That's more than 7 grand a month, and we're not even considering. Is that with commissions or without commissions?
I think that's just the base, actually.
It's just the base. So you're probably looking at another 10% commission on top of that.
Yeah.
On all closed deals. So based on your ticket price, you could be paying anywhere between 100 to 120K per year, which is 10K a month for one dedicated sales rep. And from there, you just have to kind of like count on them to do their job. And that's the breakdown of a sales manager. And so having a team that can do this for you, not only can they book appointments, but they can ensure that your setters are consistently generating. Say, for example, your goal is 5 appointments a day. That sounds very easy to hit, but if you don't have somebody looking over your team, it's very easy. 1 week your team could drop down to 4, and then all of a sudden that becomes the new normal. They feel like 4 is doing a lot, then it drops down to 3 and 2. And the only reason why we're able to speak about this is because these are all things that have happened within our own businesses. These are all problems that we've had to solve. We've had guys come in where they start off strong, 8-9 appointments per week consistently,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
dropping all the way down to 2 appointments to the point where one appointment was something stellar for them. And we realized that if we wanted to keep quality high, we had to keep certain procedures there, and that's why we've come up with our formula to not only hire rock star appointment setters, but to consistently oversee them to make sure that their performance is always as high as it can be.
Yep. And so whether you work with us or a different agency where they place setters and closers, I think it's just important to know what it is that you should be looking for in a sales manager or SDR or appointment setter, the time commitment as well. Otherwise, the mistake can cost you financially and also your energy as well. So, I think that's everything I want to say about this topic here. But is there anything that you want to talk about, Anthony?
one thing I'll say is if you're trying to have appointment setters in your business, if you're trying to place them into your business, don't don't be so overconfident that you think that you could just hire them and let them do their thing. 9 out of the 10 times that's not the case there, and left to their own devices. And it's not out of bad intent. A lot of people, they just don't know what to do. They don't have the direction. They don't know what the expectations are. And if these things aren't set, then they'll try to set them themselves. And normally it's not going to be what you want for your business.
Yep. All right, so it's wrapping up here, episode 3. Thanks, Anthony.
No problem. Take care, guys.